Most people spend 40 years planning for retirement and almost no time preparing for what happens after it. They plan the money, they plan the date, they plan their final day at work, but very few plan for the silence, the loss of routine, the strange feeling of waking up free yet not knowing what to do with yourself. Because for many people, retirement doesn't begin with freedom, it begins with confusion. You've finally reached the age you've worked towards your entire life, and then a question quietly appears. Now what? If you're nearing retirement, already retired, or wondering why it doesn't feel how you expected, this video matters. Because today we're talking about the hidden reality of life after 65. Why some people quietly decline, while others build the happiest years of their life. Most people were sold the same story. Work hard, stay responsible, pay off the house, put money aside. Then one day retirement arrives and life finally begins. That was the promise, and for decades millions believed it. Maybe you did too. The idea that once work ends, happiness automatically starts. No alarms, no deadlines, no boss, no Monday mornings, just freedom. And to be fair, part of that is true for a while. The first few weeks can feel amazing. You sleep better, your shoulders relax, you go for a walk on a Tuesday morning and think, why didn't I do this years ago? But then real life returns. Because retirement doesn't remove your mind, it doesn't automatically create purpose, it doesn't magically replace structure, identity, friendships, or meaning. And that's the part nobody explains. Many people prepare financially for retirement, but emotionally, psychologically, socially, they arrive completely unprepared. They expect permanent relief. Instead, they meet something more complicated. Freedom with no shape. Time with nowhere to place it. Comfort with an unexpected emptiness. And if that sounds familiar, you are far from alone. This is one of the biggest life transitions any person goes through. Yet almost nobody talks honestly about it. So what actually happens once the novelty wears off? Let's talk about the first 3 months. For many people, the first month of retirement feels wonderful. The pressure lifts, no alarm clock, no emails, no rush. You wake up slowly for the first time in years. You drink coffee without checking the time. You go out in the middle of the day and it feels almost rebellious. It can feel like freedom. And after decades of structure, that relief is real. Then month 2 arrives. The novelty is still there, but softer now. You start noticing how long the days can feel. You finish little jobs around the house, sort drawers, clear the garage, organise old papers, useful things. But once they're done, something uncomfortable starts creeping in. What now? You check the news more often, you scroll your phone without meaning to, you wander through the day. Then month 3 arrives, and this is where many people feel something they didn't expect. Not sadness exactly, not depression, just a strange flatness. The excitement has faded. The fantasy of retirement meets the reality of ordinary Wednesday mornings. And many quietly wonder, why doesn't this feel better? If that's happened to you, it doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means you're human. Because human beings need more than comfort. We need direction. We need purpose. We need to feel useful. One retired teacher described it perfectly. She said the first summer felt like a holiday. Then September came, and everyone else went back to somewhere important. She didn't. That was the moment she realized she hadn't just left work, she had left a version of herself. Here's the question almost nobody asks before retirement. Who are you when work disappears? It sounds simple, but for many people, it's one of the deepest shocks of later life. Because for decades, work was never just about money. It gave you structure, responsibility, status, competence, a reason to get up. People needed you. Problems waited for you. Your presence mattered somewhere. And slowly, without noticing, work becomes part of your identity. It becomes the answer to a very common question. So what do you do? I'm a teacher. I'm an engineer. I run a business. I'm a nurse. I'm in sales. Simple answers. Recognized answers. Answers that tell the world who you are. Then one day that answer disappears. And many people are surprised by how strange that feels. You may have wanted retirement for years, yet still feel unsettled once it arrives. Especially men of this generation, if we're being honest. Many were raised to measure themselves through work, to provide, to stay useful, to be dependable. So when the role ends, the internal question begins. Do I still matter? Women can feel this too, of course. Sometimes after years of family roles that have already changed once children grow up and move on. Because the deeper issue is the same for everyone. When the old role ends, what replaces it? And this is where some people get stuck. They think retirement is the end of becoming. It isn't. It is simply the end of one identity and the beginning of another. The people who thrive later in life usually understand one thing. You're allowed to become someone new, a mentor, a learner, a traveler, a creator, a volunteer, a calmer version of yourself. The real question is not, who were you? It is, who do you want to be now? And if you never answer that question, retirement can start to feel empty very quickly. Now let's talk about the problems people rarely admit out loud. Because retirement can look comfortable from the outside, while feeling very different on the inside. The first is loneliness, and I don't just mean being alone. Many people enjoy solitude. I mean the quieter feeling of disconnection. No team, no daily conversations, no one expecting you anywhere. No natural place to belong. Work gave many people something they underestimated. Regular human contact. The quick chats, the shared complaints, the familiar faces, the feelings that you are part of a living world. When that disappears, life can become quieter than expected, and sometimes too quiet. Then there is the drifting day problems. When every day is open, days can lose shape. Monday feels like Thursday, Saturday feels like Tuesday. Weeks pass quickly, yet strangely feel empty. People often imagine unlimited free time will feel relaxing, but for many it creates low-level anxiety. Because the human mind likes direction, it likes movement, it likes having something to move towards. Without that, the mind often creates its own problems. Small worries become bigger. Minor aches feel more serious. You notice every twinge. Every headline about health suddenly feels personal. This is why some people become more anxious after retirement, not less. They finally have time, and their mind fills the space. There is also something else people don't always admit: a loss of relevance. The feeling that the world is still moving, but no longer needs you in it. That can be painful, especially for capable people who spent decades contributing. If any of this sounds familiar, it does not mean you are failing retirement. It means retirement needs design. It needs structure. It needs people. It needs purpose. And for many couples, that reality becomes very obvious once both people are home together. Which brings us to relationships. If you are in a long-term relationship, retirement changes more than your schedule. It changes the rhythm of your relationship itself. For years, life may have had a natural balance: time together, time apart, work days, evenings, weekends, separate routines that quietly keep everything working. Then retirement arrives, and suddenly two people who love each other can find themselves sharing the same space almost all day, every day. This can be wonderful. Some couples genuinely flourish. They travel more, talk more, laugh more. They finally get time together without constant pressure. But for others, the adjustment is harder than expected. Small habits become bigger. Different routines start to clash. One person wants activity, the other wants peace. One wakes early, the other moves slowly. One wants conversation, the other wants quiet. None of these things are dramatic, but when repeated daily, they matter. Retirement often exposes conversations couples never needed to have before. How much time do we want together? How much space do we need? What does a good week actually look like now? Who handles what? What kind of life are we trying to build now? Some couples discovered they had been living side by side under the structure of busy working life without really noticing how far apart they had drifted. Others discover the opposite, that beneath all the noise of work and stress, they still deeply enjoy each other. Retirement reveals what was already there and improves it, or forces it to be faced. The happiest couples in retirement usually do one thing well. They talk honestly, not just about money, about identity, needs, space, dreams, routine. Because retirement is not just an individual transition, it's a shared one. And when couples navigate it together, it can become the strongest chapter of the relationship so far. Which leads to an important question. Why do some people thrive in retirement while others struggle? So why do some people come alive in retirement while others slowly fade? It usually comes down to a few simple patterns. The first is structure, not a rigid timetable, not pretending you still have a full-time job, just shape, a reason to get up, places to be, things that happen regularly. People who thrive often build a loose rhythm to the week. A Tuesday walk, a Thursday class, morning exercise, lunch with a friend. Small anchors that give time meaning. Because structure is not the enemy of freedom. It is what makes freedom enjoyable. The second pattern is movement. Walking, swimming, gardening, cycling, stretching. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to happen. Movement protects mood, energy, confidence, balance, and sleep, and often creates social contact at the same time. The third pattern is connection. The happiest retired people usually stay involved somewhere: a club, a cafe, a volunteer group, a hobby circle, a sports group, a faith community. Somewhere they are known, somewhere they matter. That matters more than people realize. And the fourth pattern is growth. This surprises many people. The people who seem youngest in later life are often still learning a language, photography, cooking, music, technology, history, anything that makes them curious again, anything that reminds them they are still expanding. Because thriving retirees don't see life as something that's already happened. They see life as something still unfolding. That mindset changes everything. And for some people, it leads to an even bigger decision. A new country, a new climate, a completely new chapter. For some people, retirement doesn't just bring a new routine, it brings a new question. Do I still want to live where I've always lived? That question is becoming more common, and it's easy to understand why. In countries like the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, many retirees are facing a real difficulty. Higher living costs, housing pressure, grey winters, stressful pace, healthcare worries. A pension that once looked enough no longer stretches the same way. So some people begin looking elsewhere, not to escape life, but to improve it. A warmer climate, lower monthly costs, better weather, a simpler daily rhythm, more value from the money they worked decades to save. And this is where countries like Thailand often enter the conversation, because for the right person, it can offer something powerful: affordable living, great private healthcare, fresh food, friendly day-to-day culture, beautiful surroundings, and a pace of life many people find easier, calmer, and more human. Places like Hua Hin, Chiang Mai, or Pattaya each attract different types of retirees for different reasons. But let's be honest, moving abroad is not magic. A beach cannot give you purpose. Sunshine does not fix loneliness. Cheap rent does not solve identity. If you were unhappy internally before moving, then that follows you. The people who thrive abroad usually move towards something, not far from something. Adventure, fresh energy, a simple chapter, more freedom, more possibility. They also make effort. They build community, learn the culture, create routines, and stay curious. And they think carefully about what matters most. Because distance from children or grandchildren can feel easy in theory, but very different in reality. For some, moving abroad becomes the best decision of their lives. For others, home still pulls strong. Both are valid, but what matters is this: retirement can be a redesign. You are not trapped in one postcode simply because you always lived there. Sometimes a new environment creates new life. But wherever you live, the same deeper rules still apply. So after all of this, what actually creates a good retirement? Not just a comfortable one, not just a financially stable one, a genuinely fulfilled one. It usually comes down to a handful of things. The first is purpose, and purpose does not need to be grand. You do not need to change the world. You simply need reasons to engage with life. Someone who needs you, something you are building, something you are learning, something that benefits because you showed up. Purpose can be a garden, a grandchild, a small business, volunteering, writing, mentoring, creating, caring. It does not need applause, it needs meaning. The second is structure. Many people underestimate this. They chase endless freedom, then quietly miss routine. Give your week shape, put things in the diary, create anchors, protect momentum, because a calendar filled with intention feels very different from empty time. The third is connection, not hundreds of contacts, real people, conversations that matter, friendships that continue, community, being known somewhere, being welcome somewhere. That is wealth many people only appreciate later in life. The fourth is health, not perfection, consistency. Move your body, sleep properly, eat reasonably well, take care of yourself now, because the quality of your later years is being built in your early ones now. And the fifth is curiosity. This one may matter more than people realize. Stay interested, learn things, try things, travel if you can, read widely, ask questions, talk to younger people, talk to different people. Curiosity keeps the spirit alive. It prevents life from shrinking. And here's the biggest truth. A good retirement is not something you arrive at. It is something you build, quietly, weekly, daily, choice by choice. Some of the happiest people in their 70s and 80s are not the richest. They are the ones who stayed engaged, who kept growing, who refused to believe their best years had already happened. That choice is still available to you. I want to leave you with something honest. There will be difficult days in retirement. Days when you miss being needed. Days when the old version of you feels closer than the new one. Days when too much time feels heavier than too little. Days when you wonder whether everyone else adjusted better than you did. Those days do not mean you failed. They do not mean retirement was a mistake. They mean you are living through one of the biggest transitions a person can experience. And transitions are rarely tidy. But here is the part many people discover too late. Retirement is not the end of usefulness. It is not the end of growth. It is not the waiting room of life. It can become the freest chapter you have ever lived. A chapter where you choose your pace, choose your priorities, choose who you spend your time with. Choose what matters still. For perhaps the first time in decades, your life can be designed around truth instead of obligation. Some people drift into retirement, others build one. That choice begins earlier than most realize. It begins the moment you decide to stay engaged, to stay curious, to stay involved, to keep becoming. Because the best years do not automatically sit behind you. Sometimes they are still ahead, if you are willing to build them. And maybe the real question was never, what happens when you retire at 65? Maybe the real question is, what do you want life to become now? If this spoke to you, let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like more honest conversations about retirement, lifestyle change, and building the next chapter, I'll see you in the next video.